All right, mic check, mic check, mic check. Okay, sounds good. Got a lot of moving pieces going on over here this morning, trying out some different things, trying to do things a little bit different. Expand the what do I want to call this? You know what it is, yeah. The production, there it is. Expand the production. So far, it's been a lot of wholesale from what I've seen so far. Nothing like no economic news or anything that is driving anything. Of course, everybody's still talking about Powell and all of that good stuff. And it's just a lot of noise. There's a lot of noise out there. It's the best way for me to sum it up. Hope everybody's, being safe and trading their strategy well out there. And make sure I got everything good on my end. So the way that I'm setting this up today, or the way that I'm doing this for on this Friday, is the reason I started to stream at this time is so I can trade first, and then I can come and I can do the narration. And I think that's just the best way to do the Friday stream, at least. There's an echo. I hate stuff. Well, actually, I don't hear echo. Oh, is it the music? No, well, cause that's. Where are you hearing the echo? Is it my voice or is the music? Oh, okay. All right. Appreciate it. All right, so we're just gonna keep going with it, and we'll see. All right. All right, it's all good. Appreciate the feedback. Make sure everything is going through good. All right, so right now it's not a whole lot going on. It's just a whole lot of, I'm just saying, mostly wholesale. We got inventory, our full inventory area at 470, and we're slowly, actually no, we're still inside. We're slowly raising price, but overall I'm seeing just the range. There's not really a whole lot to even really talk about so far. We had a nice little run up overnight, and we leveled off around during the London session. So we've pretty much just been building our inventory ever since, and just moving inventory in and out of the warehouse. Not much excitement going on. It was actually kind of easy to trade this morning, which is a difference from the movement that I've been witnessing this week. I think that even extends to last week. Which was a good segue to talk about beliefs. There's this belief that I bought into early on, like for a while I was, when I started trading, about Fridays and like certain days of the week that are supposed to be harder to trade, or there's a certain type of movement that happens. And I'm not saying that certain days we don't see, or certain I'll say dates are days where we don't see more quote unquote difficult type of price action that can be hard to trade for, the typical retail trader who only doesn't have, a big account size to be able to cheat, or doesn't have the order book to be able to cheat. You just, you're kind of at the mercy of those that move the markets. So, there's a common belief that certain days are harder to trade than others, and it's consistent. And what I come to discover is that belief, because it was holding that belief actually made it true. And it wasn't until I kind of just tested the opposite side of that belief to where I found out that if the day was irrelevant, and it had more to do with the fact that I believed in it more than what was actually happening. Because what I would go back and I would look at is I would look and see that those days what I just thought were the hardest days to trade, actually I would get my best opportunities on those days, and I would miss the best setups on those days. And it was all in the moment. I felt like my beliefs were valid, but when I went back and I reviewed, I realized that the beliefs were kind of misleading me. So I'm saying all that to say, you definitely be mindful of whatever beliefs that you're holding, and then try to go back and look at those days without the lens of that belief, and just look at it for what it is, to see the truth as it is, and see if your beliefs are serving you or if they're misleading you. And I see that echoed a lot throughout the market as I listen to different traders express their opinions or their experiences within this environment. On the subject of belief, kind of talking about beliefs, also the beliefs of this is the hardest thing to do versus anything else, like versus a job or versus entrepreneurship. And for me personally, it's definitely not. One, because I love it. That removes so much of the difficulty of trading, of day trading, versus anything else. So if I had to put into perspective I've been an employee. I am an employee. I've, done the entrepreneurial thing. I'm doing the entrepreneurial thing, and I'm trading. And out of all of those, I would say the quote unquote easiest, really the most simple thing to do is trading. There's no resume to fill out. Only you can say a resume is signing up for your brokerage account, but because they make you fill out all the stuff. But that's just formalities, right? So there's no resumes to fill it out. There's no interviews to take. You don't have to worry about customers. You don't have to worry about marketing. It's just really just you and the charts and how you see the charts, and you taking advantage of whatever you're reading from the charts, or whatever you read. If it's not even the charts, if it's like more like numbers based, or you're looking at balance sheets or news or whatever it is that you look at, it's just you and that other thing. Versus if you're trying to run a business, you have to worry about marketing, you have to worry about maybe employees, you have to worry about setting up things in your back office, you have to worry about administrative things, you have to worry about your books being together. There's a lot of moving parts. It's not just I have a product, let me sell it. Whereas in trading, you have a product, which is whatever you're trading, that's your product. And it's just as easy as clicking the button when you want to sell or buy that product. So I don't know if those things were just on my mind about beliefs, and that just came up for me. So I felt I wanted to express that while there's not a whole lot going on. And don't even get me started on employment. It's actually, I've had to do more work looking for a job and being prepared to actually be qualified for a job than actually having a job. Okay? Especially in this IT industry. The way that, you know, I spend most of my time just, you know, sitting around and just waiting for something to break. While there are days where, you know, it can be busy, you know, but I would say if I had to, you know, qualify getting the job versus having the job, I've actually put more effort and work into actually getting the job. So now we're starting to witness a little bit of a markup. Inventory was lifted to 480. We got a quick inventory area right there around right below 500. Where we're starting to increase our distribution a little bit. And while I use this language, understanding business has been like one of the most helpful things in terms of me trading. Because it's all, a market is a market no matter what market we're talking about. That's a t-shirt print. I just spend my time sitting around waiting for things to break. That's definitely put that on a t-shirt. All right, we're slowly raising price as we find more customers to sell our supply to. Looking at it from a 3-minute perspective. From a 3-minute perspective, I do see that, you know, some typical candlestick patterns before we entered into the space here. So I'm seeing that as the marketing for our wholesaler, where that's the ad that we posted trying to, you know, getting people ready to, or letting the market know that we have inventory that's ready to sell as supply for us. And that's where we're seeing these raised prices as we unload all this inventory that we collected since the London session. Now, it wasn't all one time. It didn't all happen at once. We've, you know, of course, there's distribution throughout. We're collecting inventory, selling that back to the customer as supply. Again, we don't really care what the customer does with it once they take it off our hands, but all we want to do is get this inventory at lower prices and sell it to the customer as supply at higher prices. So now we have a quick inventory area around right above 510. Watching this to see if how our wholesale sees the customer base within the market right now. It looks like we're starting to find a drop zone or an area to drop price around 525. So where we go from here will be very telling, depending on what we do away from 525. back inside of that range. So that tells me we don't have enough inventory to keep marking up price. We're kind of exhausting our market up here, so we need to find somewhere else to set up shop. Or maybe they saw some. That's one scenario. The other scenario is they saw some discounted inventory at a lower price, and we want to go pick that up before we continue marking up price and selling off our supply. And they can do that because they have the order book. So wholesales, they see what the orders come in, and they make decisions based off the orders that they see come in. Finding more customers at slightly higher prices. The markup continues, but not with a lot of energy. So it would be fair to, to expect a discount run at some point. Our inventory collection phase. Go ahead and take this time to mark off some of my triggers that I saw earlier, or that I got earlier. And for those that are, that's a good point, time to mention that those that are not in the Discord already, I do post these triggers in the Discord in the Hindsight Capital channel on a daily basis. Now from that perspective, it hasn't been so easy. Or catching the real movement, or the real move with the exception of that last one around 9:56, where we started to really go into this markup phase. As our wholesaler continues to distribute inventory, purchasing some inventory, selling some of it as supply. As we slowly continue to mark up price, it is being very efficient. They're trying to be as efficient as possible with the customer base that they have right now. It's almost like being in a I would say like let's just call it a flea market. It's almost like being in a market, or some kind of just imagine you're in a market where people have kiosks set up and they're selling their things, and you as a wholesaler, you have your table set up, and you see this influx of customers come in. So you start trying to do what you got to do to get their attention, and you're selling off your inventory. Also, at the same time, you do have some. All right, yeah. You at the same time, you're collecting inventory. You have whatever your connections are to get your inventory and purchase your inventory to be able to sell it. But just looking at it from the temperature of the market, our customer base, we had that influx around this what time is it? Like around 9:55ish, where we saw a lot of customers come into the market, and then they were buying, they were shopping, they were doing their things, and now we're starting to see customers leave the door. They're starting to see them go back to their cars and go back home. So it's becoming less crowded in terms of who we have the opportunity to sell to. So now we got to be a little bit more efficient with how we distribute our inventory. Finding some inventory off of PR plus 7, which is 516. You can also tell that the market is kind of cooling down, because we did find some inventory. Did find some inventory at around 530. But now we're having to search for discounts at lower prices, and that didn't last for it. We weren't able to keep marking up price too much beyond that. And that just confirms what we were witnessing before that, as we started to see the higher prices, the marking up of prices slow down. After that initial push, once we saw those customers come into our store, or come into the market. And when I imagine this, I don't really prefer the store concept, because that's usually a one-to-many type of situation, to where you got this one. So on the surface level, that's a one-to-many. So if you go into most retail stores, the name that's on that store is not the actual producer of the products that are on their shelves. They're just serving as a middleman, a market for people to come and buy products in a certain niche, right? So, but it's easier to see it from the perspective of, let's say, like a flea market, or a a farmer's market, to where you have all of these different sellers that are coming. They're setting up their stations, they're setting up their kiosks, and they have their products to sell to whatever customers come into that market, right? So I'm imagining like a lot of tables, like we're in an open area. Maybe it's outside, maybe it's inside, but there's an open area where we see a lot of tables and a lot of setup. People set up, a lot of wholesalers set up to sell their product and distribute whatever product they're, that's within their niche. So I take that concept and then I apply it to how I'm looking at the charts. A nice little inventory lift off that 516 area. Also, the way that I'm reading wholesale kind of tells me there's not a lot of additional participation from our participants that are holding a big bag. Now that could change at any point. It's just what's happened so far. And if I remember correctly, we had sort of a predatory move yesterday. Sometime at some point this week, which I wouldn't be surprised if that actually takes place again. Oh yeah, because they used the Powell thing yesterday to find the heavy discounts, and then they just ran up. They took on a whole lot of inventory, and then they just went on a markup phase. The Queen's Death. Oh yeah, that too. Back to that inventory area 516. All right, we're looking for more discounts. How deep do we need to search for discounts? Versus the amount of customers that we're seeing to be able to sell off our inventory as supply. Pushing back inside of the shop. So when I see this wholesale range going kind of sideways like this, I reference that as setting up shop. So we're setting up shop between 510. Well, really, the shop was set up between 516 and 540. And everything below 516 is searching for discounts. Now if we hold this 510, that would be kind of a clearance, you know, having a clearance on. We're trying to get rid of our, we made some decent money. Now we're just trying to get rid of or lower our inventory as best as we can, so we can go and start looking for, we have plenty of a budget to look for inventory at lower prices. So I'm looking at this as they've pretty much made a decent amount of money for where we're setting up shop, where we set up shop so far. And now we're just working on our budget. Which, how long they does that, that's completely up to wholesale. That doesn't have to happen. That doesn't have to take place for long, until they find enough of budget, and it's all of that is balanced with the inventory, and now we're ready to go back and release the supply to the customers that we see. Alright, we found a supply drop area at 530. Back into our discount zone at 510. Watching to see if we hold it here, or do we need to find cheaper inventory. Before, we did see customers that were willing to, that we were ready to sell to at 540. We didn't make it that far on that last little run. So from my perspective, we're still budgeting. Caught some more inventory. Let's just keep working on our budget. Still working on budget. Discounted inventory is now at 504. Picking up some inventory at 504 or 505. In that little range there. Do we have enough to add to our budget, or do we need to look for lower inventory? Or do we need to look for more discounts, I should say. Below 500 is the search for more discounts. Alright, we're searching. So now this would be our inventory rebuild phase. And along the way, we're going to buy some cheap inventory. I'm going to try to sell that off. We're just going to work our budget as we build our inventory, as we rebuild our inventory before we're ready to set up shop again. That gave us a quick inventory range around 490. Now we're finding some inventory there that we want to keep hitting that area so far. I mean, as of right now. As my VM distracts me, I can go ahead and pause this VM. So we did find an area of inventory where we found favor in around that 490. From here, I would be looking to see if we set up shop around down here, or does wholesale see, you know, those customers, an influx of customers coming back into the market, to where we can start marking up price again and taking whatever inventory we have and making as much money out as we can at higher prices. So on that note, I think it takes me to a good place to go ahead and close up shop for myself. Yep. And I hope everybody has a good weekend. Hope you had a good week. And we'll see you on the next one. Trade it easy.